Let's roll. This is Countercharge, your podcast for ranks, flanks, and kings of war. Join your hosts as they delve into the world of Panithor and bring you worldwide coverage of all things Kings of War.
Welcome to Countercharge. I'm Rob Nuff.
And I'm Matt Croger. Welcome to our big combined June-July monthly Fireside, because we're a little bit behind. Not behind in content, Rob, with the wealth of Masters episodes you've been putting out. It feels a little bit like Christmas in July. There's been plenty happening. I feel like it's certainly chilly here. Not your level of chilly, but, it's for Australia chilly, getting down, sub-0 degrees. And, so you've been hunkering away over an editing board, that's for sure. How about all this content from Masters?
Yeah, there's a lot of great content coming out. And I was really happy to see how much positivity, interest, involvement in 4th edition. Generally speaking, people are really happy with the rules and the direction of where the game's going. So, yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Well, yeah, crazy. I mean, like you weren't going a month or two ago. And so it was going to be 0 content. And then we've ended up with what's going to be about a good dozen hours, I think.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we posted around 8 or 9 hours, 10 hours so far. And there's at least another 4 hours to go. And I do want people to let us know if they like the way we did it this time. Typically, we would do it chronologically by broken down by day, maybe like part 1, Friday, part 1, part 2. This time, I just went through all the content I had and try to find where there was connection points. And so, like, if we had a specific person on multiple times, just bring that into a separate show, maybe 45 minutes of the same guest over multiple times over the weekend. And I'm wondering if it makes it more accessible for folks. So just let us know if you like that. It was certainly a lot easier to edit because I don't have to do all the timestamps. When you have like a 3-hour or 4-hour episode, a part 1 on something, and then I've got to go in and actually measure figure out the timestamps and give people this, I can just tell you what the show's about. And, people can listen to it or not, right? Based on the guest that's appearing.
I personally thought it was a good way to do it. I mean, we didn't discuss it, and so I've just been a listener catching up on it, and I'm certainly not up to date with all the content, but I've made a reasonable chunk. I think I'm through the missed opportunity episode of the fed is unfettered.
When you said that, I was like, oh, what a loss. See, that's why we got to get you more involved with this kind of stuff, Matt, because you are the maybe not you personally, just Australians in general. Phrasing is your expertise.
yeah. That's one way to put it. And I heard you had an excellent ride home from Masters too.
I don't know if we'll ever actually do like a recap episode, but we should probably just lay that out as well. Some people may have seen the posts on Facebook, but Andy had to work Monday, so we left after the event, maybe like 7:00 on Sunday night, and so he had to work at 9 the next morning. So we took off, and it's a long drive. I don't remember, 12 hours, 13 hours, something like that, from Minneapolis to Memphis. And like around 11 o'clock at night, we had turned off on a road that's a little more gravelly to get to a different highway. And we picked something up, right? A noise, right? And so we stopped because there was a grinding, rattling sound. So I got my little headlight out. We crawled under the van, and because I assume it's got to be a rock, right? That's the first thing you think about. You're running over gravel. Something doesn't sound right coming from the wheel well. Okay, so what's up? Couldn't find anything. So I thought, oh, well, let's just drive some more and it'll probably break free and we'll be fine. Well, it didn't break free. It kept getting worse to the point where the car started to shimmy a little bit. So I was like, okay, it could be a rock, but I can't see anything. I'm really not panicking yet, but I'm like, okay, this might be something bigger, like a wheel bearing or something. I made the decision. We're just going to sleep over in a truck stop. And the next morning we'll get up and we'll find somebody to go and look at it. Okay. I have a CPAP machine. Andy has a CPAP machine. The difference is when I don't have my CPAP machine, I like on an airplane, for example, I sit vertical so that I don't snore when I'm sitting up. This guy's reclined fully back. He missed his calling. He could be a chainsaw spokesman. He sounds like a chainsaw at full bear. So I did not get much sleep that night. So long story short, then the next morning we get up, we go to the first place that's the closest because this thing's grinding. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, it's getting worse. And I go to this one place and I'm like, oh, we're backed up. We can't help you. My wife comes to the rescue and says, hey, Rob, just go to this Firestone place around the corner. She found somebody. And they're like, they got good reviews. And she was not wrong. Matt, I'm sure you do the same thing. When your wife gives you advice, you take it because they're usually right. So we go, and he's like, yeah, no problem. Give us a couple hours because we are a little backed up, but we will get this resolved for you. And I was like, cool. So we got to see Waterloo, Iowa in all of its glory. So we got to go to a great breakfast. I'm not sure what's up with Andy, though. We're at like 8:30 in the morning, and he's eating like a hamburger and chili. This is a recipe for disaster. So more on that later. We finally get back to the Firestone after kind of walking around Waterloo, Iowa, which, by the way, Iowa, that city, is it named after Waterloo, like in Europe, the big battle? There's a big river that goes through it, and there had to be 7 bridges. I was like, wow, I didn't know they had this many rivers and bridges in Iowa, much less in one city. But regardless, we get back there and they said, you want the good news or the bad news? And I'm like, oh God. So it's not a wheel bearing, it's an axle. You know how it goes, right? He's like, it's not a wheel bearing. He goes, it's a freaking rock. It's behind your rotor. I basically paid him to take the rotor off, get the rock out, and I have the rock. It is very interesting. It is ground up pretty good. So, and then he put the rotor back on. We're good to go. Real short summary, 12-hour delay. We're back on the road. We made it back to Memphis 9:00. One of the interesting things that came out of this is because we were delayed, and so we were going through a different time of the day. Andy got to experience A&W Beer, the restaurant, for the first time. So again, I'm not sure that was the best decision on my part, but it is what it is. I appreciate all the kind words, people that were like, oh, I hope you get home. There's what do they call that? Like an appendix to this story?
Yeah.
Well, long story short, I must have picked up a chip at some point in the windshield. And now my windshield is completely broke.
Oh, no. No, because that's happened before, hasn't it? Didn't someone sideswipe the mirrors or something?
Yes. Regardless, I made it back. And as people have seen, I've been editing a lot, little daily episodes. Some are really short, some are a little bit longer, and that's going to continue for, at least through the next week. So
I think, yes, I just remember getting your distress messages from the rock in the car to look at this bloke that I can't sleep next to.
I don't know if this is funny. I tried to record him with video. It was so loud. Phone didn't record the sound because it thought I was like in an air hangar or something. Like it distorted the point to where it didn't record the sound. So I just have him. But you can tell looking at him, this guy's a snorer, big time. So yeah.
Well,
the price I pay to bring content to the world.
Speaking of the people in the community, should we roll into our community update? So we've had some tournaments running locally. Winter's Wrath has just been running one with Max K getting up again. A nice little 28-player 2-dayer in New South Wales. And then that's all leading up towards our own Masters will be in November in Sydney. So as well with a side event. So it's worth checking out details for that. Publicly in the Kings of War Australia page that they'll have seen that we've got a brand new website. So there's been lots of chat, and like we've talked many times before, and it's kind of partially might weave into our topic today about this desire for, central places for tournaments, right? So I'm hoping that the Kings of War Australia website will become a bit that, because particularly for people that aren't on Facebook, that they might be able to see where events are without having to go troll through Facebook. So I've rewritten that, and that's kind of up and live now. As well as on that is a redo of Blackjack, although there's a couple of things that need a bit of tweaking in there that don't quite match the book, apparently, that didn't carry over when I merged it with the TO software that we've built, which is also live. But, Winter's Wrath used the software, and, they've been pretty happy with it. So what I need now is just a bunch of people to properly test it. And, we've had people say testing it before, but it hasn't really happened. So we're going to stress test it and just keep making it better. So that's what's happening locally. Few events coming up, but, the scene here is all pretty positive. What about yourself, mate?
It's good. One thing, just to apologize to Matt on, I think maybe 5 or 6 times through the coverage of the Masters, I said, well, who the hell updated the Blackjack stuff? And then Steve broke it down. I was like, well, I connected Matt with Connor, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, glad to see that's been updated. So that's what they used at this just Masters. Just a couple things I wanted to mention. The Bane Chat podcast team are trying to get Kings of War onto Longshanks, and they have a website, getkingsonlongshanks.com. Then it will redirect to a request on the Longshanks site, And currently right now there's like 457 up votes with only 40 against. So that's good, right? They're making progress. I don't know if they have a critical mass of 4 votes that they need to make it worth their while, but I mean, that's a good thing, right? I mean, anything to give people more options is good. And I can't wait to see the software that you've been working on for a long time behind the scenes get like a wider release at some point.
Well, the funny thing about the Longshanks thing is, I find, is the amount of positive stuff around it. They kind of go, oh, it's always been good. But like, this is the first time I feel like the community's really heard of it. But all of a sudden, there's all these people saying, it's the best thing since sliced bread.
I think they use it for other stuff, right? The Legion, some other stuff. So maybe people have interaction with it that way. Well, let's transition to hobby updates. And I'll be blunt, I don't have a lot, but I have a little bit.
Shock horror.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is I have a metric ton of new basing from War Chest Creations. It's the MDFs with the pre-drilled holes for magnets, and they come with the magnets. So I have been diligently going in and gluing the magnets in. And I bought a bunch of hero conversion basing. It's a square with like almost like a frame, and you can drop in a 25 or a 20 to make it bigger, right? To make it 40, 50, whatever. So I've been doing that. Shocker. I have pulled out my ogres because I don't know. I'm like hobby wobbling to the point of falling down. I really like the changes, right? And so I've been doing that. And then the other thing that's come up recently that is very strange. I am a hoarder. People know me. I buy a lot of stuff I don't need. But like last summer, I was in a discount store called Marshall's, and long story short, they had these poker chips that were branded for Nashville Predators. Like, I don't know why anybody would buy a NHL hockey team branded poker chip, but whatever. These chips come in packs of 20, and they were discounted like 10 times. Like, there literally is probably like 7 or 8 price tags on this thing, to the point where, this is the crazy part, Matt. These are high quality poker chips. There's 20 in a package, and they were 50 cents. So I bought all 9 packs they had. So I have 180 chips. It cost me $5. Now, what's interesting, at the time, I didn't realize what size these are, but do you know how big a poker chip is, Matt?
Well, holding one up, it looks about 40 mil.
Correct. And much to my surprise, it's 40 mil. And why would I know that? Well, I am also working on a tray in that widget set that will hold 10 40 millimeter tokens. And I put the poker chip in, and I'm like, it fit perfectly. I'm like, the sky's parted, and like divine light came down. I think I saw an abyss somewhere out in the ether. So not a lot of hobby stuff going on, but I'll take what I got, which is very little. What about you? You've been hobbying tons, right?
A little bit. I had a bit of after getting the Trident Realms to a workable list, I had a bit of a flat patch, and I certainly haven't been on the roll that I was before, but I have finished the basing for roughly a little bit over 2,300 points of Zerkali. So that's the theme of Empire Dust
post
theme.
some pictures on the website or on the Facebook group. Yeah, it looks really great.
I'll have to take some pictures. So I've got that done. So I'm ready to move on to the models, and basically all but a couple of the models are assembled. So I've just got to get them sprayed and get on to painting them now, so that I can keep on rolling on. Yeah, so I've got a list I want to try that was at roughly that same list that I discussed at the end of the first army review episode. So, which there's been a little bit of good feedback on too. A couple of people have reached out on me, so I'm glad people enjoyed that. That's mostly what I've been doing, as well as working on that other stuff that I talked about in the community update. So yeah, it keeps rolling on. I haven't had a game probably since we spoke last, but I'm hoping to go to gaming night on Monday night. So not sure what I'll take there and roll out some version of Trident Realms maybe. I think, although with what I've built so far, I just want to build more and probably change up the list completely, to be honest. So there's a lot more painting in my future, Rob. I can't see myself, as much as I love things like what they've done with nature models and things like that, I can't see myself buying for a while, because I have a lot of tweaking to do on my existing stuff to get enough flexibility in lists, particularly with the amount of core required.
And on my end, like the hobby, I was really gung-ho about the idea of halflings, but man, trying to build a list in Companion, really uninspired. So I don't know, and I think that's part of the reason why when the ogres came out, I'm like, oh, maybe I should I have a huge ogre army. I can add a few new units. Well, let's jump into some feedback and engagement, and we'll start with Spotify. And I thought this was interesting because we did put out like a deluge of US Masters content Is that going to be like an Omaha quote? That came up a couple times in Masters.
Omaha. I was saying it in the car every time someone went it. I'd go to myself, Omaha.
Yeah. So Spotify tells us each episode how the listening time of that episode in the first 7 days compares to like the average listening of an episode over the first 7 days. What do we have? Like 9, 10, 11 episodes from Masters back to back to back to back. And the two top ones, which are actually above average listening, number one was Kyle Preselinski, which I thought was interesting. And the second one was Steve Hildrew. It might be attribution error to read in too much into that, right? But, those were the two most popular episodes in the first week after their release.
The number is just for the first week on comparing to how much it would normally be listened to in the first week. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at those numbers now and where I think the interesting thing is a bunch of the others are below normal, but I think that's probably because of the amount of content that went out all at once. So people, picking and choosing from that content what they listen to first.
You bring up a good point. We hit them with so many different episodes. There's a very distinct possibility that those other ones that were less over the first 7 days will go back up, in the next few weeks as people get time to circle back and listen to it. And we do have a few comments along with one correction from Spotify. And Kodos mentioned for episode 854, Fracture Ogre Primer, that the Mammoth in support also changed to Titan with an 80 by 100 millimeter base, not just a big deal. So I missed that. I totally missed it. And then we had a couple other comments. We had Bees in that same episode on the Ogre Primer says, Abyssal Dwarves have the Hexcaster as support slot too. Absolutely loving the Ogre changes right as I finished, he's air quoting, his army. And so that probably is in reference when we talked about the Goblin Bigot, which is a support which is in support and not a champion or warlord anymore. And then finally rolling us out at 8:46 Fireside Chat from April, we have Bill Richardson said, Matt, seeing Ronnie is the stuff of legend. And Jeremy, two of my boys were heavily involved in baseball, and I can tell you, better have some good games on the phone or tablet because that's your new hobby world. Yeah. Little premonition there. By the way, we got a rating, so we're at 46 ratings
rating. Wow,
we got another rating, so that was really great. And you know what else we got? We got a review on Apple Podcasts. This is from Guy Flabase. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's the best I could do. Longtime listener who keeps coming back for every episode. Really appreciate all the effort put into the sound quality on most episodes. I take that as talking about you, Bat. That's what I think.
The recent car one was a bit of a disaster, wasn't it?
But, yeah, it was a little rough. Someone tell Rob there's a terrain crate owlbear he could use as a guardian brute. So yeah, thanks for the feedback on that. And then we had some comments on the Kings of War forum, and it goes back to my question a few episodes ago where I asked about, did you like that primer format where we didn't go deep dive into each army faction, but more a 25-minute quick take. Boss Salvage said, these shorter primers were great, learned a lot, and even more excited for my book this week. And then a couple more just comments for various episodes that have come out. Sam Uri said, I like the leaks Kyle was giving. I think everybody caught the leak, right? That he said Twilight Kin is going to be in the Arrogance book. Seems to get interesting for Twilight Kin in the near future. Dark Black says, that was great. Thanks. I definitely came out of that more positive and reassured about 4th edition. I'm hearing a lot of that people are liking where the game's at. Yes, there's some quibbles, right? There's some things they would like to see cleaned up, but in general, they like the direction we're moving. And then on Podbean, we have Big Gun says, I'm so glad Unplugged can be reached again. So we got a fan of Unplugged Radio who is available on our podcast network by going to our website, countercharge.net.
Yeah, and interestingly, they've commented that on our Unplugged, the crossover that you had just previously. So I'm hoping that they've found that they are live again. They're just being hosted via our website. So hopefully they've been finding their own Unplugged content.
The statistics that our host provides does indicate that they're back up and running. So that's good. We talked a lot about that over the U.S. Masters weekend. I really appreciate the more consistent release schedule. And then the fact they're bringing in people that play Kings of War consistently.
Excellent. All right, well, after catching up on those reviews and comments, let's have a brief commercial break and we'll be back with Mantic News.
I'm Derek Mim, and you're listening to Countercharge.
And welcome back. So, first thing that was hot off the press, in the last couple of days prior to this episode, Rob, is that the new FAQ and errata has dropped not long after the book Fracture. And the big thing, or the thing that's grabbing the most attention there is that there'd been a little bit of complaining about how Green Rage had changed on top of Thonar changing, and Mantic are walking that back, saying that's an editing error. So, which I can believe. That'd be one of the things that's quite hard to pick up in editing, I'd imagine, because it's caught up in the bulk of the text, right? So it's it can be something that can be missed. So they give you the page for Fracture, page 166 orcs, and they've basically said, remove the change to the Green Rage command order. The wording is staying as per the rulebook. Thoughts on that, mate?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good change. I think orcs at US Masters, we had some people that had good runs, but, I don't think it's necessarily broken, right? Especially considering they have already implemented changes to Thonar. Fracture Book said was just you're doing it on the damage roll rather than the hit roll. And now they just undid it. So now it's going to stay on the hit roll.
I saw Luke Schaefer was a little sad that, he didn't get to use it at a recent event because it was in between that and the updates. And he got well and truly paddled by Maxi. But, I don't think Green Rage would have helped him. It's more like Green Tears.
Maybe let's jump into the Mantic Vault. And before we talk about the July offering, I go and look and see what's the current offering. And I went to the main page. And if you haven't seen it, there's just like little ad, like high quality wargaming STLs. But the Lord of Lies model is on that page. Is that telling you something?
Well, I think so. I mean, my expectation is that pretty much everything they make in resin sooner or later will appear there, right? And we've been seeing them bring out the special characters that they're doing in resin quite quickly sometimes after the initial releases, whether they're purchased on their own or as part of the vault. But yeah, I'd imagine we would see it at some point. The only things I don't really expect to see are the plastics. Certainly, well, not for a significant period of time after their release, if ever, because of course you're going to want to sell your plastics that you've paid to tool up. So yeah, no, I'd expect to see it. And there's still a few older things that I'd hope to see eventually. I'm just not sure if they've got that have been made in resin that I'm not sure if they've got the files for. Like, I want a Moloch, Rob. I want a Moloch.
So funny story there, Matt. My very favorite model in the entire range is still the same model. It is the Moloch that they made, I believe, for Dungeon Saga. It's a different pose than the 3 that you can get in the box set. When I backed Dungeon Saga, you could get it in resin. I want more of that. He looks similar but better than the 3 the 3 normal Warlock.
Because I think that they produced the original ones are now produced in resin, aren't they? So
correct.
But I guess the question is whether they used a plastic one or something to make, or how they made the mold. And
yeah, all the Dungeon Saga minis were PVC, so I'm going to guess that, and that's many years ago, they probably didn't sculpt it digitally, is my guess.
Which is a shame, because it's a bit that's kind of, that would really get a lot of access to the range.
Yeah, but maybe now with the scanner technology, as long as they have a high quality resin casting, well, then they could probably still make it digital.
Yeah, you would hope so, because I think it's one of the few things that's not quite as accessible. Like that's the thing about the Abyss range, isn't it? Is that it's got quite a mix of stuff that's got a bit of age behind it, as well as some newer stuff like the Lord of Lies. But yeah, so hopefully we see that. Hopefully we see a bunch of some of the big gribblies on there at some point. Yeah, but I mean the July offerings for the Vault, Rob. Woo, so tasty.
Knock me over. I mean, just so good. What were some of the highlights for you?
Oh, well, Orion and Estelle, right? So, I don't think there is anything that I think that is a major win from the Fracture book, as well as then producing this. Produce the characters from your books, right? And I think, so many of the characters were basically in the book, in the background bits of the books, in the rule books and things before really coming to life. But Orion and Estelle were that little bit different, weren't they? That they were really only brought to life in the Winged Hussar books. And so I think if you've got these characters that are being written up in the books, getting some digital sculpts of them is just a cracking idea. And, you can be putting on your website or under the vault, right? Read about these characters here, and here, because we heard from Mike that unfortunately, and I wouldn't expect them to be, but they're not huge sellers, the books, because our community is small. But maybe, by doing a little bit of linking to that, we get a few more sales behind these books and people get a little bit deeper into the lore, because those books were one of the first King's literature. Well, what did you call it? Literature? High prose.
Depends on who you're asking.
Oh, God.
Good.
They're awful. Amazing.
It's garbage.
It's really good.
No comment.
Yeah, well,
I mean, they were light reading, right? But I think they were just an enjoyable read, and those characters, I think they're really easy to immerse yourself in. So I think people are stoked to have those two characters, as well as, there's the Centaur character already, Rob.
Flaxhoof. Yeah, and that surprised me that it's there already. The Ratkin Armada Navy caught me out of left field. I was like, oh, I didn't realize that was coming. Amazing stuff. And then a bunch of, looks like Warpath stuff, Forge Fathers. And
I think, I've mentioned on a previous episode, I think that's the easy part of the vault for them week to week at the moment, is that they've got the tier on My Mini Factory where people are supporting it. So they're throwing the stuff in from there onto the vault subscription month by month, the basic stuff anyway. So yeah, that was a great month. Having said that, wouldn't buy more. I am tempted by Basalia. I've always found them. There's something that's always drawn me to that army. So even though their updates weren't as significant as Nature, there's something about them that wants to draw me in. That was the other leak from Kyle, wasn't it? That we expect a little bit of a glow up even for Zerkali in the next book potentially, or in the coming books, that we might see more waves of the invasion. So we might not be done with models. I like that.
Yeah, I me too. Yeah, it's a great month. Like I said, there's a lot of cool stuff. There's some characters from the books. You got a special character Flaxhoof. Got some Forge Father stuff, and then the Armada fleet. So I'm excited about what next month holds, because next month is the new campaign. So are they going to give us some stuff for that campaign? Maybe not. Maybe not. Because technically, I think the campaign starts in the middle of August. So that would be enough time for some of us to, especially you, Matt, because you've got a whole factory, but have it printed, painted, based, ready to roll in time. And I am planning on participating. I don't know about you, Matt, but I'm going to figure out a way to really engage on that campaign. Any opportunity for me to pull out some bespoke, crazy terrain that's not really practical for typical gaming, for normal gaming purposes, caught me in. So I can't wait to see what they've got. Put me in a cavern, put me on an island.
Well, that was in the news, wasn't it? Is about the campaign, and hopefully we get a bit more before the campaign actually starts, because I think it's only running for 2 weeks, the campaign, from looking at the dates from memory. But they've said we're going to be seeing some beta siege rules, Rob. There'll be plenty of people frothing about that.
And my castle's been itching for a long time. It's probably been 2nd edition since the last time my castle's been itching.
No, I thought I didn't catch the C. I thought when you said I have an.
Well, yeah, you're right though. It's going to run from Friday, August 14th through Sunday, August 30th. So,
just,
you know what? I
that's
also
more like 3,
just picked up on this too, that during the campaign, your gangs of Kings of War, Champions, and Armada will decide the fate of Samaric, with real consequences that will be written into the ongoing narrative and history of Panathor. So, Matt, we probably ought to get our favorite person on again, Mr. Alex, to give us more insight into this, because I think there's an opportunity here.
Yep, got to get handsome Alex back on.
Oh, no, it's Posh Alex. I've dubbed it.
Posh Alex, okay. Posh Alex.
I think somewhere in the Masters coverage that came up, and he has so been decreed. That's his name, Posh Alex.
So with that, shall we take another brief break, and we'll be back with our topic of the month.
My name is Jacob Fetter, and I am better than my dad at Kings of War. And you're listening to Countercharge.
And welcome back. Now, first thing I want to say about this topic of the month, Rob, because I'm sure everyone thinks that this was me. This was not me.
No, this was me. This was my idea. And actually, this month's are also my idea, because there was some grousing about specifically the tournament portion of Companion. So our question for you this month was, how would you improve the tournament portion of the Mantic Companion. Leave it to our very, very, very good friend, Alex Coos. Very subtle response. Start over.
I've talked about this multiple times before, but I've never talked about it with the amount of rage that I actually have over this part of the software.
Nothing worse than having it crash, right? Or not being able to add players midstream. There's some significant deficiencies when you compare it to other things. And, kicking us off, Paige Neo is comparing it to Longshanks, where he says, I think Longshanks has well been established as a tournament website app for tournaments for multiple game systems. It can do player world rankings, history of tournaments, players, and lists. I'm thinking if Mantic can just give up on Companion doing tournaments and do it on Longshanks. Plus, it will give Kings of War visibility on the Longshanks ecosystem, might attract players from other game systems using Longshanks. Interesting comment, because Matt, you may not have been around long enough, but I think it was the first or second Kickstarter for Kings of War. They were going to have an app. Do you remember this?
No, I do.
Spoiler, it never really came to fruition.
And I think that the last bit of that point about it giving visibility is a good one. I mean, part of the thing that I've seen repeatedly around this is, we need a centralized area where people can see all the tournaments. I'll tell you right now, that is never, ever, 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 ever going to happen, because people will choose their own things, right? There is never going to be a thing that has every tournament. I think the better way to go is basically each community look after their own, like the US find a way to aggregate all their tournaments. The UK have it, we've now got it. Things like that. You're never going to get that central, but visibility to other systems, absolutely, to show that there's an active scene. Fraser Scott says definitely PDF instead of text, which was one of these mindless updates that just happened out of the blue. It was PDFs, and then all of a sudden it was decided that, no, let's make the outputs text now, which were just dog awful. I saw a post recently, I think from Aaron Richardson, that it is already returned. So maybe that feedback was heard from either some of our episodes or online.
And we should say these comments are from about a month ago. So, and who's this cheeky bastard that says contracted to someone else? Man, that's rude.
That was me.
Michael Atkins says, talk to as many TOs from as many different countries as possible to find out how they want it to work. That's an excellent piece of advice, right?
That's the thing. And with some of these comments, and this is the stuff that makes me cranky, is years ago, I gathered stiff from three, 4 continents on how to make this work. And it's just never been done, to the point that I gave up.
Well, and we've got our buddy Andrew Whitehead from the Direct Misfire podcast. He says more detail of previous round results, e.g. scores, not just wins and losses, an easier way to submit lists. We had a code system before, and now we have to go searching for the tournament. Step backwards, in my opinion. Lists are output in bulk as text files is the only option in 2026. Unbelievable. Can you say, how does an Australian that's outraged say unbelievable, Matt?
Unbelievable.
Oh, geez, that's so underwhelming. I was expecting something, we've talked about it lots of times. My expectation is something like an Outback commercial. So he also says, I really like the Army Builder portion and ran a tournament at the start of the year using the Tournament Companion without too many hiccups, but it seems to have gone backwards. We pay for this. It needs to be a quality product rather than a labor of love where quirks can be excused. Excellent, excellent advice.
Jeff Holland, the ability to see all of the details of each match of each round against the opponent. 2, the ability to change scores and details of previously closed rounds easily. 3, the ability to act as a god as admin if desired. The ability to drop players in and out of the tournament more easily, the ability to mess with the soft scoring regularly. You can change the tournament during the tournament, drop rounds, change scenarios, etc. All of which has been asked for before.
And we got our buddy Matthew Selleck. So we got 2 out of the 3 hosts from Direct Misfire commenting.
Well, I think part of the reason for this is the Companion really screwed them at Convic, which was a almost 30-player tournament in Victoria recently, and it took away their will to live by the end.
Oh, jeez. Well, he's got some common refrain here. Matthew Selleck says, number 1, bulk export of PDFs. What is this text file nonsense? Number 2, round by round scores, so you can see what each round score was. That's very helpful, especially in bigger events where if you at the end of the day 1, in between rounds, just posting that up somewhere where people can say, oh, I made a mistake, and those things can be identified before you're too far on to go back and fix it. Number 3, tournament stats. Things like army submission statistics, battalions, army heroes, items, drops, unit strength, spells, etc. And finally, submit second list on behalf of someone else. That's not what I've heard before, but that's a very good suggestion.
Chet Dudick, I would improve the tournament portion of the Manta Companion by making a list of all upcoming events by country. I would make it available in the free portion of the app. I only found the Kings Tournament because of a similar webpage that introduced me to a Nerdhammer one day, and the rest is history. One of the big problems is that you have to create a tournament on their tournament portion as of the app, and then you have to list the event in their event, and that's always been the case for day one, despite multiple feedback. And like, TOs don't want to be just creating it in multiple places all the time, just to link. Like, I don't understand why you can't create a tournament in the Tournament Companion and it automatically populates an event on the calendar. It's just bizarre to me.
And on that note, we have a similar comment from Dan McCauley. He says, as someone new to Kings of War, it seems hard to know what's going on event-wise. It's very fragmented. The Flashpoint app seems well done with listing of events, lists, and rankings. There are so many Kings of War events, but only a portion of them are on the app. It's hard to find Kings of War stuff without finding specific posts to Google Drives containing lists or hearing about events from veterans going through the Facebook pages. I get everyone likes using what they like, but seems like another roadblock when building a rank and flank armies game are already so difficult. Checks Companion, no events near me, guess the game isn't doing well. Finding specific Facebook pages to find event info isn't super convenient. If it weren't for a veteran of the game guiding me and directing me, I doubt I would have attended my first tournament a few weeks ago. It's one of the key ways where we are communicating to the unfaithful, right? The people that aren't already here. If somebody was interested, I think it's a logical step for them to pull up the official Mantic app and see what's going on. So,
yep. Next is Nathan Arnold. Stop making a tool for running a tournament. The variables in that process are way too many to try and get it in one thing. I don't agree, really, given he's had 5 or 6 years to do it. Make it a tool for signing up for the tournament first, having a place single to find events, sign up for them and submit a list would be really good. Mike Painter, either easier customization of the scoring system or implement the standard scoring systems back in again. Export a PDF, not text. That's been done. Add strength of search schedule as an option for tie breaks. Keep it up to date. There are still missions for Firefight not added from a release 12 months ago. That's disgusting. And yeah, I mean, that's the other thing we're seeing, isn't it? It's just the updates to
slow.
Even the rules bit are slow or not accurate. There was still, I don't know, I saw heaps of posts from the Fracture update, Rob, of things not being right. So
what is this thing from Paul Collins? Implement CAC-JAC scoring. All right, what is CAC-JAC scoring? You have me intrigued.
That's what Kakwa came up with, just to try and be a little bit new player friendly. So it just involves a whole bunch of, it's basically win, loss, draw with really low numbers like 3, 2, 1, and then he just has a bunch of bonus points for like first tournament or things like that. The take home of that is have a way that's, really easily customizable.
And then we got Aaron Richardson says, I use the tournament portion. I like it for smaller tournaments. I do wish I had the ability to add people to a tournament after the submission date is over. Just a button to open up submissions again would be great, so those last minute player changes can happen the day of. We got Jason Murray says PDF files for the lists, not having the app crash during an event. And that seems like a pretty big one. Able to adjust scores on the fly if required. And we have Dale Hasto, I hope I pronounced that right, improved redundancy. Nothing worse than losing the software mid-tournament. Ability to roll back errors would be grand. We've got Alistair Vowles. Is that how you say it?
I think so. Yep. Yeah, he was on Bane Chat the other day.
Look at what other good tournament apps are doing and do that. Also, working at the big events are a plus. He's cheeky.
David Mullen, as a US player specifically to the South, yeah, I've never looked at the tournament part. I think that does say a lot about it if I have never used it. Trevor Stiles, who's our mathematics whiz, isn't it? He's our Kings of War stats man, isn't he, Trevor? PDF exports instead of text, API access so I don't have to do wonky scraping and rebuild it every time something changes, easier list submissions for events. Jats, perhaps they should consider a committee for the companion. Community input seems to assist when it comes to rules. Perhaps with those industry skills that player Hoppy would really contribute to developing testing. Again, sorry, Jats, but been done, ignored. Or we see these random updates like the text things. Or another one common from the past was when Blackjack was common. They changed the formula even though that wasn't Blackjack, and then, kept the scoring but didn't name it. And so people had to figure out from weird wording how to make it work themselves.
And next up, we have Max K. I'll say this. Whenever I see the name Max K on a contribution to some post on social media, I get my really good reading glasses on. I get a nice cold beverage, and I sit back and I'm ready to be entertained. and he doesn't disappoint. So Max Case shares, I'd fire Elliot and hire someone motivated who knows what they're doing. You always know where you stand with Australians, right?
Yeah. I've not used the tournament portion, but I assume the solution is more dwarfs. Well, Adrian, you have used it, you beanhead. Like you've used it from the consumer side at every one of the Clash of Kings, and it's the thing that constantly has me sitting there for half an hour trying to work how the hell not to bugger it up. So... Yeah, we had a fair bit of engagement on that. So that was excellent. Thank you to everyone for contributing. I think, to be honest, if I was running, I'd be cutting it loose. In fairness to Elliot, right? And this is the bit, like, I think he has a wonderful list builder that has issues and could be updated, but like there are a lot of things for him to do. And the list builder is excellent as a list builder. So cut free the dead wood that is actually making your reputation worse, not better. So I would just cut it loose, either let the community go to something like Longshanks, which will help in the long run, like Paige said, potentially with something like that, or, they can come and use ours when we're building. So if anyone wants to test it, they can reach out to me on Facebook, but only reach out if you actually are going to put in the effort to test it, because we'll give you access to the Trello board and stuff. And, if you don't contribute, I'll boot you from it. So it was used by Port Macquarie, and like I'll be honest, I've completely vibe coded it, and the guys from Port Macquarie said they already had a better experience from using that than using the companion. They ditched the companion a week out because even the setup was too much of a nightmare for them. So if you want to test it, but I'm at the point where I think they should just cut it loose and stick to the things that they're doing well. Because I don't think many people, it's not like people would drop their subscription for not having the TO
you're not
companion.
Buying the subscription for the companion's tournament piece.
No, so I think it's time to let it go. The feedback's not working. I know the only thing is I know they really like the data, but they're getting the data from the list building anyway.
The tournament piece does tell them what lists are going to tournaments and how they're doing, but given the issues with it, I almost would say that information's suspect.
Well, what Trent said is they can do an API type thing. Like, so we originally had ours. I don't think it's working at the moment, to be honest, because I think we stepped away from it briefly, where if you gave it your Mantic List Builder login, it could go in and pull the list for you. So like you could get a two-way compatibility where you can still get the stats if you want. Like, I don't think that would necessarily lose them the stats. It might be a little bit more work to get the stats, but I don't know. That would be my fix now, Rob. Have you ever used it?
I've used it at 1 days, right? Where there's no risk there. It's like, okay, there's 10 players, 8 players. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. And you can always dump it in a spreadsheet and save it, right? So,
well, and in the past, I've used the thing that Tim Lona's put together, which works great, but does require a lot of effort, right? And then I've used spreadsheets, and I've dabbled with some of the Mike Atkins Google Sheet things that are real popular in the US now. So I'm, there are so many options out there now. I'm right there with you. Best Coast pairings, Longshanks, take your pick, right? And those are just two of the more popular ones. They work, right? And it's just a matter of, if we want to use it for Kings of War consistently, getting them to maybe add some features that maybe are specific to Kings of War. Maybe our scoring systems and the like. And so, again, I'll remind you, if you want Longshanks to have Kings of War, go to the website.
Well, I think part of the reason they haven't had more votes is, like, I went to it briefly and you needed to create a user before you could vote, right?
Get Kings on longshanks.com. We'll then redirect you to the right spot on the Longshanks website to make the vote. But as you said, Matt, you do have to be a member of Longshanks. We do have some podcast updates, just as a reminder. You can always help others find the show by sharing it within the community. You can also give us reviews. We really love reviews. That's how a lot of folks do find the show, believe it or not. They go to Spotify and they just put in Kings of War, we pop up, or YouTube or whatever. So, sharing the love, if you like what we do, we would appreciate it. Again, if you're interested in contributing to the show, please reach out to me on Facebook. I love people coming with ideas, because I'm going to be blunt, Matt. I've been doing this for a long time. I mean, Countercharge existed since 2015, but we were doing Mantic Radio before that. And before that, I was doing stuff on Ohio Hammer, which is a Warhammer podcast. There are times where I'm like, what topic can I possibly cover? We haven't covered 50 times. So I really would love to have perspective and have some folks come in and say, hey, what about this topic? And to that end, got more Trent coming. We did record an episode about buying secondhand models, which is not something I've done lately, but certainly have done in the past. And Trent has been in a buying spree. You know, he's a big fan of Facebook Marketplace and eBay and all those things. So we got that. And we got more Masters coverage. Sorry, if you're not interested in Masters, and I would say it's not really about the event per se, right? There will be some that is really specific about the games and maybe how the Masters will set up and run. But the overwhelming majority of it is really about conversations of people from various parts of the country and just their perspective on 4th edition, what they like, what they don't like, and just how their community is faring the transition. So definitely, if you haven't listened to some of that stuff, I would highly recommend looking down the list. If you see a name you don't know, fire it up in Spotify or wherever you listen to our podcast and give it a listen. You might get a new perspective. Matt, I'm starting the ruminations of a Salamander Army review. That's all I'll say right now, but I think that's the logical next one. We did Zerkali because that Army review never existed.
Well, there's enough people that play Salamanders, right? So
correct. And there's even some good ones.
Yeah, exactly. Not me.
Not me either. The Southeast has no shortage of Salamander players. There's at least 3 Salamanders players that were at Masters, I believe.
Should you do selection criteria based on people who don't just take 3 Commodons?
Well, now you say that, so that means we have to get Nathan Arnold, right? Because he didn't take 3 Commandants when he won when he won Lone Wolf. So, So that's an interesting thing. Should we, if we have 3 guests, only one of them can be allowed to have the 3 Commandants or 4 Commandants. I guess some even had 4 Commandants. Well, Matt, do you want to get us into our next topics?
That's right. So for next month, we're going to go run with 2 topics of the month. The first being, considering all the changes suggested by the community for 4th edition, what do you think is the single most impactful change, either positive or negative, and what makes it stand out to you? And number 2 will be, if you could nominate one person for an upcoming List Builders studio, who would it be, and what army or list archetype would you want to see them break down? So we'll pop those up on the page. I'm also thinking, Rob, in terms of army lists. Yeah, I mean, we could do a poll, right? But it makes the most sense to do something from the books that have already been released.
And Invasion's the one we have more data on. That's why Salamanders makes sense. Halflings, I don't know. There's a lot of interest.
I think there's enough people happy with halflings, to be honest.
Alan Beaner's the only one, I think. And I don't. Trident Realms, we could certainly get some people as well, right? But since they made the cost correction, it's kind of seen better days.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, hope you enjoyed the show, everyone. I don't think you got anything else to add, Rob?
Short and sweet today.
It is short and sweet.
I got more in editing to do.
Yeah. So with that, thanks for listening. And until next time, keep countercharging.
Thanks for listening. And we'll see you next time on Countercharge. Please let us know what you thought of the show by emailing us at counterchargepodcast@gmail.com, on Twitter at countercharge15, or by commenting on the Countercharge Kings of War podcast Facebook group. If you enjoy the show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. Until next time, keep countercharging. Music is a composition of Kevin MacLeod and is licensed under Creative Commons.